We already know about a ton of villains that are going to be in Marvel's Wolverine that I am super stoked about. Obviously, we're going to go toe-to-toe with the frickin' Sentinel, which I can't wait for. We know that Omega Red is going to be in the game. He's kicking Wolverine's ass in the trailer. The Reavers are in there. Mystique could be friend or foe. We don't really know for sure. And there are obviously as well a ton of villains that could end up being in the game based on some of the locations that we travel to in Marvel's Wolverine. I talked about that in a previous video, but I kind of wanted to expand on it and just give you guys a wish list, the villains that I want to see in this game the most. I made a video like this a long while back when Wolverine was first revealed, but now that we've gotten a new trailer and a ton of new information about the game, I wanted to revisit it and talk about even more villains that I think should appear. Hit that thumbs up button if you're looking forward to the game, and slash the subscribe button, turn on those notifications. I am so excited for Marvel's Wolverine, and I can't wait to bring you guys more coverage for the game, especially once we get some new information come spring of 2026. And okay, I should mention that a lot of the villains that I have chosen here, I have chosen specifically out of the fact that this is an M-rated game. I want some of these villains to be ones that we're going to go toe-to-toe against in a boss fight, and these villains have to take some damage from Wolverine. Except for one, but we'll get to him later. So I'll start off the list by mentioning the Wendigo. I mean, we are going to the Canadian wilderness. We know that much throughout our travels in Marvel's Wolverine. A giant frickin' Wendigo is certainly one of the things that Wolverine has come across during his time in the Canadian wilderness, and it would be awesome to go head-to-head against one of those beasts in this game. As I mentioned, a lot of these villains, I want them to be these epic, brutal boss fights. I feel like a Wendigo very much matches that description perfectly. And it'd be a nice callback to one of my favorite Wolverine games, which is kind of the tie-in to X-Men 2. Fun fact, actually, Mark Hamill voices Wolverine in that game. And then next up, the Reavers are confirmed to be one of the enemy factions that we are going up against in this game. I mentioned this in my video about villains that have already been confirmed and some of the villains that could be in the game based on what we already know. And so I'll just throw her on my wish list. Lady Deathstrike. She is one of the more iconic Wolverine villains. She is a Reaver herself, and in some cases from the comic books has been the one to lead the Reavers, so I could totally see them going in that direction for this game. Donald Pierce is also a leader for the Reavers, so he could appear as well. I mentioned that again in my last video about this stuff. But yeah, Lady Deathstrike, such a cool villain, an awesome set of powers, and yes, could definitely take some damage from Wolverine, and maybe we can get even some hints, some Easter eggs to their battle in the X-Men 2 movie. And hey, we are going to be visiting Japan in Marvel's Wolverine. That is confirmed. There is another villain on this list that I really want to talk about. We'll get to him later, but another villain that is from Japan, a villain that has mutant abilities to turn his enemies into stone. Gorgon could be so sick for this game. And the reason that I mention a character like this specifically is because it can make for quite a unique boss fight where it's maybe something similar to the Scarecrow encounter from Batman Arkham Asylum. One where we sort of have to sneak around an area as he's trying to get his eyes on us, and then we kind of sneak up on him to get a slash in. It could really put Wolverine to the test and as well shake up the gameplay so it isn't all just going out guns a-blazing or claws a-blazing and just slicing and dicing everything in your path. For as much fun as that will be, don't get me wrong, I want to do that exactly in this game. I want them to shake things up from time to time so that the gameplay isn't the same thing over and over and over again. And then, okay, I did mention that there is one villain on this list that isn't necessarily going to be tailored for a boss battle, but rather this is a villain that I want to be included into the game strictly because I really hope that there is just a Weapon X flashback mission. And obviously the villain I'm talking about in this case is William Stryker. We know that the story of Marvel's Wolverine is going to have a lot to do with Wolvie trying to uncover some stuff from his past. One of the biggest things in his past is the moment that he has the adamantium infused into his bones. And yeah, I think it would be really cool to call back to that moment and have a mission that's dedicated to that part of his life, where we're breaking out of that facility and we see him in the full Weapon X look. That would be awesome. And honestly, I can totally see Insomniac including something like this in the game, especially considering what they're trying to do with the story here. Following that is a bit more of an obscure villain, one that I don't know a lot of people are going to be aware of from the comic books, but I think would be awesome to include in this game, mainly because he is insanely powerful, and that is Cyber. Now, Cyber has adamantium infused into his skin. This dude is a freak of nature. He is a monster, and he has definitely created quite a problem for Wolverine in the comic books before. And I honestly think a villain like Cyber is kind of perfect for an Insomniac interpretation of Wolverine. Take Spider-Man 2018 as a great example. They took a really powerful villain from the comic books that not a lot of people have heard of and thrusted him into the mainstream, that being Mr. Negative. I could totally see in Marvel's Wolverine them wanting to do that same thing with a lesser known villain, and maybe that could be someone like Gorgon, like I mentioned earlier, or maybe it could be, in this case, Cyber. As the list starts to wind down, this is a heavy hitter. This is one that I don't even really need to include on my wish list because we know he's gonna be in the game. You just don't make a Wolverine game without him. Sabretooth. He is the quintessential ultimate villain for Wolverine. You gotta put him in this game, man. Come on. I really don't see them not including this character, even if for just one brief moment. You're gonna have Sabretooth in this game for sure. And I couldn't even imagine what a boss fight between these two characters could be like. I just really hope it doesn't go down like it did in Deadpool and Wolverine, because that was extremely anticlimactic. So I am really looking forward to what is the likely possibility of Sabretooth showing up in Marvel's Wolverine. And I am also really looking forward to what that fight is gonna be like. Top 3 time. Now, this villain I actually had in my original list as an honorable mention, but over the years, I've really thought about it. I have thought about how this fight could be in an Insomniac M-rated Wolverine game, and it got me really excited, and it made me want to bump this character all the way up this list. So at the number 3 spot of villains that I really want to see in Marvel's Wolverine, Juggernaut. I mean, he is giant, he could do a ton of damage, and he can take a lot of hits. This is definitely a villain that I feel fits perfectly within a game like Wolverine. For similar reasons to something like the Wendigo, you know, you have this towering beast, you have a much shorter figure in Wolverine, it's David versus Goliath. How are you gonna overcome these odds? It almost gets you hyped to jump into that fight. And of course, you want to see some other X-Men related villains popping up in this game. That's why I'm hyped that we're going to have Mystique in the game too, because of what it implies for the greater Insomniac Marvel universe. If we're going to go with some of the origins for the character of Juggernaut, we could see some ties to Professor X, maybe even a mention to that character. Maybe that's what kind of puts the X-Men on Wolverine's scent. Although I'll be honest, I don't even think Insomniac has officially confirmed if this version of Wolverine has been a part of the X-Men already or not. But yeah, Juggernaut just, you know, thrashing and crashing through walls while you're chasing after him, or while he's chasing after you, could be a ton of fun. Although, you know, it was super weird, I would kind of compare it maybe to the fight against the Blob in the X-Men Origins Wolverine game. And okay, I said earlier that there is another villain that is from Japan that I would really like to see in this game. I talked about this when I mentioned that Japan was one of the locations we're traveling to in Wolverine. I really hope we see Silver Samurai in this game, dude. All the samurai stuff with Wolverine is some of my favorite stuff from the comic books for the character, and I'm really hoping that they're going to go in and explore a lot of that within this game. At the very least, if it's not going to be in this game, I'm crossing my fingers that they're trying to make a Wolverine 2 and 3 and build up to a villain like Silver Samurai, because my god, he is so sick. And we need a better perception of this character in the mainstream than the terrible version of him from that Wolverine movie. I don't hate that Wolverine movie. I'll go on record to say that I think it's actually great. It's just that those last 15 minutes, they butchered it hard. So please, Insomniac, fix what everybody thinks about this character. Include him in this game. And then finally, at number 1, this is, I mean, you gotta do this. You just have to honor the character's roots, okay? Wolverine was introduced not in his own comic, not in an X-Men comic. He was introduced facing off against the Incredible Hulk. It just makes sense. It is an easy lob. It is something that would be extremely exciting for all the fans. We just need to find the narrative purpose of it within the game. Throw the Hulk in here. He's not a villain per se, but he is definitely an adversary for Wolverine. They have gone toe-to-toe plenty of times. He's actually part of my favorite Marvel animated film, that Hulk versus Wolverine movie. I would just love to be able to play that. And again, I said this with Juggernaut. I said this with the Wendigo. We're going to experience a version of it with the Sentinel in the game. It's that David versus Goliath feel. And to see the Incredible Hulk in the Insomniac universe, to see Wolverine fighting against him to kind of pay homage to the roots, to the introduction of the character, I almost feel it's necessary. So out of all the villains that I have here on my list, that is definitely my number one. And I have seen so many comments since we got the new trailer for this game of people saying we need to have Hulk in this game. I agree with you. And with that being said, let me now kick it to you guys. Sound off with your thoughts in the comments section below. What villains do you want to see in Marvel's Wolverine? I've been Caboose. I'll see you guys later.